Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you the NFL football game live and in color.
Pressure coming, Smith gets rid of it. Wilson's gone. Touchdown, Kansas City. Starks, room to run. Touchdown, Green Bay. Osweiler brought down. Khalil Mack, 5 sacks on the day.
Rashad Green back deep to receive. He'll return this one from the 27. Makes one man miss. Slips through into some daylight. He could go. He's got McAfee to beat. He's going to go. Touchdown, Jacksonville. 73 yards.
Welcome to Basically a Football Show.
Basically a football show. Week 15 in college, just the one game, but it counts. And week 14 in the National Football League. Greg's college is slowed down. They get a little break. We got a fun Army-Navy game. Then we get to go into the bowl games. But the NFL it's ramping up. We have some teams clinching playoff spots, first-round buys, some interesting results, and you know, the NFL is getting down to crunch time here towards the end of December.
And I think we're starting to see a little bit of separation with the playoff contenders versus the playoff contenders in both conferences, too. You're starting to see a little bit of room start to break out between the teams. So that's, I think, a good thing in some ways because we're finally starting to separate the wheat from the chaff, as they say. But you still got a lot of teams in it, too. It's just going to be a nutty finish to the season.
Yeah, you get some of the bad teams really falling off. Atlanta.
Yeah, good Lord, what happened to them?
And you have a really good team in Carolina, for example, sprinting ahead. You get the Patriots had fallen back to the pack, and then all of a sudden, guess what? They're back on top of the pack.
Yeah.
So things starting to set themselves up. But let's start on Thursday with an actual good Thursday night football game this week.
Very good game.
Vikings at the Cardinals. Vikings trying to stay ahead in the NFC North race. Cardinals looking to clinch a playoff spot. And it was just an entertaining football game back and forth. Cardinals led going into the fourth quarter. Vikings made a late push. And the Cardinals with a defensive stand there in that final minute to hold off the Vikings, 23-20. The Cardinals clinch a playoff berth, and the Vikings still in wildcard contention, but they fall behind there in the NFC North. An entertaining football game, and the Cardinals are in the playoffs now.
How about Dwight Freeney with the strip sack at the end of that game?
Yeah, right?
A guy that you kind of almost forget he's even playing anymore.
A guy the Colts would probably still like to have.
Well, they could probably use him, too. I think even though the Vikings lost this game, I thought they made a nice comeback after that trouncing they took from Seattle the weekend before. So I was ready to kick dirt in their face after that loss to Seattle. I just thought that these guys were complete pretenders, but they made a nice showing here on the road against a very good football team. So they fell out of first place, but they're still right in the thick of the wild card hunt. And nice comeback by them and the Cardinals. They just keep winning, and they can win big, but they just win. Mm-hmm. And here we are with them. I
think the Cardinals just proved again that they're a good football team. Anybody that might have had some doubts about them, they play defense well. The offense is fine, even when they lost Chris Johnson earlier this year. They're still a very solid football team. There's still a backdoor way for them to lose the division, but I don't see that happening with them. They'd have to lose all the games down the stretch, and Seattle would have to win all of its games down the stretch. And I don't think Arizona is going to fall to any of those teams if the internet would go quicker. What do you think? The Cardinals going to win the division? Yeah.
Yeah. I think they should win the division, but I tell you what, the way Seattle's been playing these past few weeks, man, I don't write off anything at this point. I think the Cardinals, I don't know what their schedule is the rest of the way. I don't have it right in front of me, but
yeah, I'm trying to open it.
Let me see here. They have, to finish the season, they've got a game at Philly, which is not going to be an easy game. Well, it could be, but you never know with the Eagles.
Yeah, that got flexed to Sunday night this week.
Yeah, so you've got the Eagles, the Eagles are competitive sometimes.
Eagles are coming on hot, though.
Yeah, you got Packers at home and then Seahawks at home to finish the season. So could they lose those 3 games? Yes. Will they? I doubt it. The Packers are not a good road team, and Arizona's got more than enough defense to shut them down. And, the Seahawks, like we said before, by the time they get to that Seattle game, they may have nothing left to play for, so I'm not going to worry about that game until we actually get there. But right now, it looks like the Cardinals are in the driver's seat. And I think one more win pretty much wraps it up for them, doesn't it?
Yeah, one more win wraps up the division for them. I think another win could also clinch the bye for them. Arizona Cardinals, yeah, they clinched the division with a win or a Seattle loss. And Arizona can clinch first-round bye with a win and a Green Bay loss this weekend.
Yeah, so they're in good shape. I wouldn't say they're entirely out of the woods yet because of how well Seattle's been playing, and those last 3 games the Cardinals have aren't exactly easy.
Right.
But they should be good enough to win at least 2 out of those 3.
Right, and that final game against Seattle could mean everything or nothing.
Right.
In terms of the division and a bye and all that sort of stuff. So,
do you think the Cardinals have, not entirely flown under the radar this season, but they don't seem to be at the forefront of any conversation when you start talking about the best teams in the NFL. It's always the Panthers, the Patriots, the Bengals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think people kind of underestimate, like they still see Carson Palmer is over there and who's their running back, and really Larry Fitzgerald still, and they win games by their defense, and that doesn't impress people. And the defense, even the big names on the defense, a guy maybe like Patrick Peterson or Tyrann Mathieu, they're not blowing the world away or anything. They're a solid football team that's winning their games.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're 11-2, which is one of the best records in the NFL. And like I said, when a conversation comes up about the best teams, you don't hear them too often. And I think they should be in that conversation.
I think so too. I mean, it's like I just said, they're a team that plays solid and wins their games. And maybe in college, when you're Iowa, we knock you down for that. But in the NFL, if you win your games, you win your games. You know, it's not like they had like one of those things where they had a super easy schedule or anything. They've had a solid schedule, and they've won, and they've done well with it. I mean, the 2 games they've lost were kind of dumb losses early in the season, and they've pushed forward, and 11-2 is nothing to turn your nose up at.
No,
so.
I mean, they probably won't get the home field advantage at this point, but they've still got a shot at that second first-round bye. And I think they're a lot like the Panthers. They play a type of game that it kind of travels pretty well wherever you go. So I'm not going to write these.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a whole lot better off playing at home. You know, if they can. Oh, sure. If they don't have to go to Green Bay or something like that, playing at home in the Dome, they'll be much better off in the long run.
But yeah, I think they're in the driver's seat for that number 2 seed in the NFC right now.
Right. If they clinch that number 2 seed, then they get the week off, and who knows how that plays with them. But they'll get a game at home, and then they might have to go on the road to Carolina, where they played last season, if you remember, where they had no quarterback. So it'd be kind of interesting to see if those 2 teams met up after the travesty of a football game they played last year, and they play in the NFC Championship game next year.
I think
it's funny how fast things turn around in the NFL, right?
And it's funny too is that this team was about this good last year until they lost Carson Palmer.
Yeah,
I don't remember what their record was last year, but I want to say they had at least 10 or 11 wins. And then Palmer went down, and that pretty much ended their season. But yeah, they're a very good team, and I would love to see an NFC Championship between the Cardinals and the Panthers if my Packers can't get there.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a great game.
Well, let's move forward on to Sunday, and because it's I just don't want to deal with this anymore. The Colts went on the road to Jacksonville. Matt Hasselbeck started. He had some injured ribs. It was reported during the week. He has to get pulled out late in this game. It was a tight first half. The Colts looked fine. They were up 13-9 at half, and then the second half was all Jaguars. 21 points in each of the third and fourth quarters for a 51-16 blowout of the Colts. The Panthers got a 49-yard fumble recovery return for a touchdown. They had a 73-yard punt return for a touchdown, and Blake Bortles just threw one up for an 80-yard bomb at one point during the game to really pull away there. As I said, Hasselbeck got injured late in the game. Came out. Clipboard Jesus, Charlie Whitehurst had to finish up the game for the Colts. So the Jaguars pull closer in the division race at 5-8. The Colts fall to 6-7, but still stay on top of the division as Houston lost later in the day, and we'll get to that. But
last week I brought up that I thought the Jaguars were headed in the right direction, and you said they aren't. You think they're still pretty much the same team. Do you still feel that way after this night? I grant 21 of those points don't usually happen. Most games, maybe one of the three things, but not all three at once like that.
Yeah.
But they still put up another 21 in the second half without the three big plays.
Yeah.
So I think they're headed in the right direction. I do. I think that I don't think they're going to be good anytime soon, but there is hope in Jacksonville for the first time in a long time, I think.
I think it also helps that the Colts are
terrible.
Trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, they suck. Andrew Luck may not come back this season now, it's been reported. He of course says that, we don't know that yet. I'm still trusting the doctors. Like, okay, Andrew. If Andrew Luck doesn't come back, and if Matt Hasselbeck can't play, Charlie Whitehurst might be starting the game this weekend for the Colts. The biggest game of the season when they're playing Houston, the team that's tied with them. And who doesn't want to line up for a Charlie Whitehurst, Brian Hoyer AFC title matchup? AFC South title matchup. Ugh. I mean, we're in a position now where the Jaguars could legitimately pull off the rest of this division and win it. Like, this is the schedule for Indy, Houston, and Jacksonville down the stretch, okay? Indy hosts Houston this week. They're at the Dolphins, and then they host the Titans for the last week of the season. Houston is at the Colts, at the Titans, home against the Jaguars. The Jaguars host the Falcons, at the Saints, at the Texans.
I think the Jaguars are the toughest of three pretty easy ways to finish the season there. I think.
Is it that tough? The Falcons and the Saints?
I think the Saints and what was the last one?
Texans.
Those, yeah. I don't know. This division is just so terrible. I don't know what to say about it. Here's my question, though, with the Colts and Andrew Luck. Mm-hmm. You're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Let's just be straight about it. That's not going to happen. You're probably not going to get out of the first round of the playoffs. Why not sit him down for the rest of the season and not take any chances?
No, I agree. Like, Andrew Luck is one of those guys that will want to come back in and try to win the game and whatever, and maybe he could if he was 100% healthy. But it's a lost season. Like, the team sucks.
Yeah.
The defense is terrible. The line is terrible. They can't run. They can't catch. They can't do anything. And the only reason that they're where they are is because of how bad the division is. And this is the first division game they've lost in 4 years. It's terrible. And this whole division sucks, and nobody should win it. Like, I mean, you look at Houston too. What do you got in Houston? The defense was playing okay, and you got.
Well, you had DeAndre Hopkins was playing really well for a while there, but he disappeared on Monday night against the Patriots, or Sunday night, whichever night it was. Yeah. J.J. Watt was playing really well, and he kind of disappeared against the Patriots. I think what we saw with Houston is we saw, hey, they're starting to turn it around, and then they played a good team, and you went, okay, maybe not.
Right. I don't know.
It's going to be a bad division winner no matter who it is.
Yeah,
but I think if I'm the Colts,
I don't think at this point that there's any better option, because the Colts, if they win the division, still aren't going to have. They may have Andrew Luck by the time the playoffs roll around, or they probably won't.
Yeah, and it's not going to do much good either way, really.
No. Or you could have Matt Hasselbeck in there, or the Texans win and you have Brian Hoyer, or the Jaguars win and you have Blake Bortles and company, and it's just like. I don't know what you want out of that division. Like, at least in the other bad division with the NFC East, you're going to have a team with a quarterback of some sort.
You've got a team in the NFC. The teams in the NFC East, while not very good, are capable of knocking off a good team. I don't look at the NFC or the AFC South, and I don't see the Colts or the Texans or the Jaguars as being good enough to go, on this day, we can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers or we can beat the New England Patriots. I think that's the big difference between the two divisions. Right,
and you look at the wild card teams right now. Can any of the Colts, Jaguars, or Texans, could they, in theory, beat who would it be? Kansas City? Or it would be Kansas City, because they're definitely going to play Kansas City or the Jets or the Steelers.
Right.
Maybe the Jets.
Maybe. But the Jets they're kind of an enigma too, but they played really – now, again, they're against the Titans, so you have to kind of qualify everything depending on who the team plays. But right now, I don't see any team in the AFC South that could win a playoff game against the rest of the field in the AFC.
No.
They could, but it would be a bigger shock to me if that happened than if one of the NFC East teams knocked off whoever they play in the playoffs, I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, it's just not a good day for the Colts. Congrats to the Jaguars, full marks. Good win for them.
And fix that helmet, and you got a really good-looking uniform, too, by the way.
Yeah. But, yeah, the Jags are a game out of the division. At 5-8. Oh, man. I think, geez. No, they're going to be 500 or lower, whoever wins this division, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because even one of Houston or the Colts is going to lose this week. And then that puts them at 7 wins. Then they play the Titans, and it's possible that maybe you get to 9-7 if you're the Colts or Texans. But
but see, neither one of those teams, their quarterback is their biggest problem on both teams right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlie Whitehurst, which the only thing I can say about Charlie Whitehurst at this point is we have to remove him as the guy with the cushiest NFL career ever because now he actually has to play a football game.
Right.
So he can't have that job anymore. Maybe you got to give it back to Matt Flynn. But, yeah, this is going to be a mess, and I don't know why we've wasted this much time talking about it, to be honest.
I don't know, because I like to vent. Let's move on down the line here, and we mentioned that NFC East. And staying in the mix of things at the top of the division, the Eagles get a 23-20 win over the Bills to move up to 6-7, and they're tied for first place. The Eagles on a roll here of late with a win a couple games, and now they're 6-7, and they're fighting with Washington and the Giants right there at the top.
Of all the things I expected out of the NFL this weekend, 3 of the NFC East teams winning a game was not any of them.
Right.
Not any of them. And this Bills team, again, though, I've been hammering this about the Bills all season. You have to win the games that you can win, and this was another one that they probably should have won, and they didn't.
Yeah, this took them right out of the playoff.
Right out of it. Yep.
Talk. They're now 2 games behind the 3 8-5 teams, and they're not going to be in the discussion.
Do the Eagles play Washington?
Yes.
Okay, so that's actually going to become a very important game now. Sort of.
Yeah. Right. The way it breaks down is the Eagles play Arizona this week on Sunday night because that game got flexed. If the rest of the page would. I think they play Washington the week after,
okay.
if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with my computer right now.
All right, well, let's just move along.
Yeah, anyway. So, right, the Eagles still have to play Washington once. And I think, like we said, when it comes down to who's going to win, whoever wins the most games will win the division.
I still like Washington, especially now that they went out and beat a decent Bears team on the road. And I think I said a couple weeks ago that Washington seems to maybe want it a little bit more than everybody else. And with 3 teams that are pretty much equal, that might be the difference. So we'll see. But you're right. I'm with you. The best analysis I can give is whoever wins the most games will be the NFC East champion.
Right. It'll sort itself out, but
You don't bother trying to predict it.
No, because like you said, I couldn't have predicted that the Giants, Eagles, and Washington would all get wins this weekend, and we'd still all be stuck with a 3-way tie at the top of the East. Like, it just came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll just keep moving along. Quickly touch on the Browns. Johnny Manziel gets a win as a starter, 24-10 over the 49ers. What'd you think of old Johnny Football, Greg?
He didn't play half bad, to be honest. He made one really dumb decision, threw a bad interception, and made another dumb decision by doing his little gun salute after he got sacked for a safety in the end zone and was saved by a penalty flag. But other than that, he played pretty solidly, I thought. Now, granted, it was against a very bad 49ers team, but still, you still can't take away the decision-making and stuff. I thought he played very solid, and he's put himself into contention, I think, to at least have to take a look at him before you decide, okay, we're just done with this guy. And the 49ers, oh, my God, are they terrible.
Yeah. I think that's all that really needs to be said about that game.
Right.
Good showing by Johnny Manziel between 2 teams that don't matter.
Yeah.
Taking themselves out of the cellar, though, the Browns did. They're no longer last in the league, no longer leading for the first overall pick.
Yeah, they kind of screwed themselves in that aspect, but
they had the head-to-head tiebreaker over Tennessee.
Okay.
So they're Tennessee, Cleveland, and San Diego are all 3-10 right now. Backing them up are the Cowboys, 49ers, all 4-9, as well as Baltimore's 4-9. Moving on, the Rams get a 21-14 win over Detroit in what might be the last professional football game played in St. Louis in front of the tens of
fans,
passionate Rams fans.
Yeah. Again, another game that really has no bearing on anything.
Nope.
Other than that it might be a historical footnote, and it was the last home game played in St. Louis by the Rams.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley had a nice game.
Todd Gurley. Do you think he's in the lead right now for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Well, you've got
him or Winston, right?
Him or Jameis Winston, yeah. So I don't know. In the NFL these days, a running back having a great season is kind of a little more unusual than a quarterback doing a nice job.
Yeah.
So he's in the running, definitely, but I think that when it's all said and done, the voters they like the quarterbacks better. But, yeah, he's definitely there.
As a future Los Angeles Ram, I will give him my backing.
Is that going to be the jersey you get, a Gurley jersey, when the Rams show up?
Oh, I'll get a Gurley jersey.
All right.
Won't be sparkly, but it'll be Gurley. We'll move on to another. Speaking of Jameis Winston, he loses at home. The Saints knock off the Buccaneers 24-17. Buccaneers, that took them. They were still in wild card contention, but now they're 2 games behind Seattle and Minnesota for the wild card spot right now.
Yeah, we're starting to see some separation in the wild card races.
I think the NFC is pretty well set up with the 6 teams that are going to be in the playoffs. Tampa's not going to make up 2 games in the final 3 weeks.
No.
Moving on, Jets, they stay in a wild card spot in the AFC with a 30-8 beatdown of the Titans. Did what they needed to do. A good solid win for the Jets at home over the Titans.
Yeah. Brandon Marshall had a nice game. Of course, it's easy to score touchdowns when no one's covering you.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that play or not, but I don't know what happened there. But I got to give credit to Ryan Fitzmagic. He saw that and called the play quickly and got it out there. And Marshall could have somersaulted his way out of the end zone if he wanted to, but he decided to run. But, yeah.
I think the Titans are the worst team in the league right now.
Yeah.
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 Either them or San Diego.
I'd throw the Browns in there too, but of the 3, if I'd have to say the Titans are the worst of that bunch, and I think by a pretty good margin.
Yeah.
I don't look at the Titans and go, gee, they could actually knock somebody off if they, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas you can see the Browns can put it together on occasion, the Chargers can put it together on occasion. I don't see the Titans putting it together on occasion.
No, they're not very good. You picked the right time to drop your irrational confidence.
I sure did.
Titans, I think. But on to more important things. Important for the Jets that they win, but they stay at 8-5, and they stay in that wild card spot ahead of the Steelers, who moved to 8-5 with a 33-20 win over the Bengals. The Bengals could have clinched the NFC North title with a win in this game, but A.J. McCarron has to step in late in the game as Andy Dalton broke his thumb on his throwing hand. Initially speculated to be out for the season. Now they're saying it's week to week. But A.J. McCarron came in, didn't look all that effective. And the Bengals fall 33-20 and can't clinch the AFC North just yet.
I think the Bengals are going to be this year's version of the Cardinals from last year. Great start to the season, lost their starting quarterback. He broke his thumb on his throwing hand. I don't know how that can be week to week. I mean, unless it's just a break in such a way where they can just jack it up with the Novocaine and he can go out and play like that. But short of that, I don't know how you could do it. And, we talked about it last week. The Steelers were still in shouting distance of the division, get a huge win. Now they're only 2 back with only 3 to play, but I think do they play the Bengals one more time, or is that it for this year?
That's it. They've played the Bengals while they're playing them.
So, but for Cincinnati, I mean, just every time they put together a great season, it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago, they had a really great record. First round bye, and they lose Carson Palmer in like the second play of the game, and that was that, and now it happens to him again. So A.J. McCarron, I loved his answer, though, when they asked him about it. He said, this is how Tom Brady got started. I think he might be overestimating his talents a little bit, but you never know.
I think so.
Yeah,
Fun fact, A.J. McCarron Do you remember where he went to school?
Alabama.
Do you know who the last Alabama quarterback to win a game in the NFL is?
I saw this on the boards. I did not click on the link. It was 1987, and I saved it. I saved it for now because I wanted to take a guess. I don't know this for sure, but I want to say it was Richard Todd with the New York Jets. Is that right?
Jeff Rutledge.
Jeff Rutledge. Okay.
Yeah, they put up. I saw the graphic that they put up. A.J. McCarron, Brody Croyle, and Greg McElroy, 3 prominent Alabama quarterbacks that had very successful careers with the Crimson Tide, 0 for 11 as NFL players. It's like, remember how I said that I would swear off Alabama running backs?
Yeah.
Would you even bother drafting an Alabama quarterback anymore?
Probably not. The last really good one I can remember was Ken Stabler, and that's going back to the 70s.
Yeah.
Richard Todd was halfway decent for the Jets, but nothing special, and I can't tell you anybody in between after that. But that's why I thought it was Richard Todd, because he was the last Alabama quarterback that I remember even being a starter. So
it's just it's so funny to think of these high-profile college programs, but, Alabama doesn't have a win as a starting quarterback, but Harvard and Ryan Fitzpatrick have NFL wins under their belts.
It's really weird, and it's strange, too, how some schools are known as quarterback schools. Not so much these days, but Purdue used to be a place where you got good quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Penn State was where you got linebackers, et cetera, et cetera. Alabama, and these guys played well when they were in college. They get to the NFL, I don't know what happens. They're just not very good.
Look at who they played. Ben Roethlisberger came from Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
You can go down all these. I'm going to start all the way back at the top. Teddy Bridgewater, Louisville.
Yep.
Carson Palmer, USC. Okay. Matt Hasselbeck. I don't even know where he played college.
Did he's Boston College? Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Blake Bortles, UCF.
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor, Virginia Tech. Sam Bradford, Oklahoma. Okay. Blaine Gabbert, Missouri. Johnny Manziel, Texas A&M. Matthew Stafford, Georgia. Nick Foles, Arizona. Drew Brees, Purdue. James Winston, Florida State. Okay. Marcus Mariota, Oregon. But I even don't think I named a school twice in that frame, right?
Yeah, and the perennial powers, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the big teams. You would think that you would have a proportionate number of quarterbacks to the dominance those teams showed in the college ranks, but you just don't. I can't remember the last good Ohio State quarterback in the NFL, for that matter. I don't think there's ever been one, really.
Oh, geez.
Maybe Mike Tomczak.
You even think Troy Smith won the Heisman, and he's a third-string quarterback somewhere.
Yeah. It's weird how it works out. And you would never guess in a million years that a quarterback with 2 Super Bowl rings, 3 Super Bowl trips would be from Miami of Ohio, and Ben Roethlisberger. It's just It is weird. You would think that Alabama, being who they are, with essentially the pick of the litter in just about every position in college football, would be able to produce good quarterbacks, and they just don't.
Well, they do. They produce good college quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean, though. You've got – how many guys, defensive players from Alabama, are playing throughout the league right now? Lots,
Oh, tons, yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah. Well, I guess the only school that's produced a bunch that I can think that have actually made it to the NFL is SC, because you had Carson Palmer.
Right.
Matt Leinart wasn't too bad initially, but just couldn't hang on. Mark Sanchez had a run of success.
Yeah.
And Matt Barkley is actually backing up Carson Palmer in Arizona. So there's a few, but
you go back a few more years. Rodney Peete was from USC. I don't know if you remember him. Going way back, the Browns had a guy named Paul McDonald who was from USC. He wasn't very good. But, yeah, it's not – I don't know. It's not as unusual to see a USC quarterback as it is an Alabama one.
Right.
But, Joe
Namath went to Alabama, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, that's when I off the top of my head, 2 quarterbacks that I know of that were good went to Alabama, Joe Namath and Ken Stabler. The rest has just been a string of A.J. McCarrons and Jeff Rutledges. Just not a whole lot to talk about.
Remember when the Falcons were 5-0?
Yeah, they were 5-0, and I'm like, hey, they finally turned it around. They got that new coach. Dan Quinn's the new coach.
Yeah.
And they're gonna, they're a good team. They just were coached poorly and all that, and then turns out, no, they're still the same old Atlanta Falcons. I'm looking now, going, how did they win 5 games? I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. And you want to have a good usage rate if you're a wide receiver. 10 Gid Jr. for the Panthers, 2 receptions, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Not bad.
It's pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty solid.
Made a real nice catch on one of those too.
Yeah, yep, really did. The Seahawks stay in a wild card spot, 8-5. They get a 35-6 win over the Ravens. Russell Wilson 5 touchdown passes in this game for the Seahawks, and again, they're a team that's looking really scary.
Yes, they are. You talk about nobody wanting to play the Steelers. I'm going to say nobody wants to play the Seahawks at this point either.
Well, the Seahawks, the way things break down, I think that they're playing well enough, they're probably going to stay as the top wild card. They're going to end up playing whoever wins the NFC East, and I would have to on the road still, but I'd still give the Seahawks the advantage in that game. It's not like they'd be going to a Lambeau playing the Packers as opposed to going to FedEx Field and taking on Washington.
Right. And they're scheduled the rest of the way out. Browns, Rams, and then at Cardinals, which, again, the Cardinals may have nothing to play for. They could very easily finish the season 11-5.
And you could have said that with the way they started off the season. Without
that and just the way they're playing right now. My goodness, they've just put it together. And when that offense is working, the defense maybe not as dominant as it was the past couple of years, but still more than enough to get the job done in the situation when they have to.
And when the offense is working the way it is, it makes the defense that much better too, because you have teams trying to come back on you or feeling some urgency, and they can pounce on that. Let's go out to the West Coast for the late games. The Broncos. I didn't even watch the end of this game. Broncos were up 12-0, and I figured, fine, no big deal. I'm going to watch the Packer-Cowboy game. I come to find out later that the Raiders made a furious comeback in the second half. Khalil Mack with a couple sacks, and Derek Carr had a great game late to lead the Raiders to a 15-12 win. Big win, nice, or not a big win necessarily, but a good win for the Raiders, and a bad loss kind of for the Broncos. They with the Bengals losing, they were in the opportunity to stay at the top of the AFC picture, but a loss. For them, a loss for the Bengals, and now the Patriots are back on top, and the Broncos have to fight for that bye.
Khalil Mack, 5 sacks in that game.
Yeah,
he just had a game. Well, not a lot of offense in this, a 15-12 final score, but man, this Raiders team, they're frustrating too because they've had chances this year where games they should have won, they lost. If they had picked up a couple of those, they're right in the thick of it, but they're out of it now, and it's too bad because they're a fun team.
Mm-hmm. And they're a team that's on the way up.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely on the way up. I agree.
I mean, next year, with the way the Chargers look now, and I mean, the Chiefs are up there, but Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, that's not an easy division anymore.
No, not at all.
We finish off the afternoon slate with your team, Greg, the Green Bay Packers, a 28-7 win over the Matt Castle Cowboys, moved to 9-4, still on top of the NFC North. Anything to really take out of this game, or the Cowboys are really bad and the Packers are a more talented team than the Cowboys?
Mike McCarthy took over the play calling duties in this game. For a little while, it looked like it made a difference. The offense was kind of hitting on more cylinders than it usually does. Then they kind of fell off. But the Cowboys, they're still pretty good on defense. The offense isn't so great, so they're not terrible. But what I think I took away that I liked the most out of this game was that the running game just got it together. Eddie Lacy, I was going to call him Eddie Charles, which I don't even know where that came from. But Eddie Lacy had a great game, I think 120-some yards. James Starks picked up another 70. Just got it done on the ground, which is good to see. And, nice, easy win. This game was closer than the score would indicate, though. It was 28-7 was the final, but the Packers really kind of pulled away towards the end. So the Cowboys stayed in it for a while. But, yeah, still not sold on the Packers yet. I still think there are problems there, but I did see some improvement.
To the Sunday night game where the Patriots got Gronkowski back in the lineup, and they used them effectively. 87 yards and 4 receptions as the Patriots blow past the Texans pretty easy, 27-6. Texans, when they're playing a more talented team, they just don't have anything to compete with them in that area. The defense didn't make a big enough impact, and the Patriots pull away, clinch a playoff spot, and move back to first place in the AFC with a 27-6 win over Houston.
Yeah, and this Patriots team, they're like the Seahawks. You want them to go away, but they're not going anywhere.
No, unfortunately not.
They're going to be around for it.
you kind of celebrate for a week because, the Patriots lost 2 in a row.
Yeah.
And, hey, look at the standings. They're now in third place in the AFC. They may not get a bye. Oh, wait, the Bengals lost? And
the Broncos lost? Yeah.
The Broncos lost, and Andy Dalton hurt his hand, and Brock Osweiler looks human. And, the Patriots are still the best team in the conference? All right, fine.
Yeah, and then looking at the field right now, too, is there anybody there that you look at and go, they could go into New England and beat them? Maybe the Steelers?
Maybe Broncos or Steelers.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say maybe the Bengals if Andy Dalton's healthy, but with A.J. McCarron, I'm not going there with that. No. So, the Chiefs aren't going to be able to do it. They can't pass well enough. Mm-hmm. And the Patriots defense is good enough to shut down the running game. So really, barring something strange, we're probably looking at a Patriots AFC Championship game again this year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's move on to Monday nights. Greg's best-looking game of the week is the Dolphins bust out the throwbacks, but not enough magic in those old threads as the Giants get a big game from Odell Beckham Jr., 7 receptions, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 31-24 win. On the road, the Giants, again, stay tied at the top of the NFC East.
Odell Beckham Jr., is there anything that he doesn't catch if it's within, say, 20 feet of him?
Right.
My goodness, he made a catch last night. I don't even remember if it counted or not, but man, oh man, it was just like this guy.
The one where he dragged his toes, on the.
Oh, he fell down and the ball's bouncing around. He pulled his hands up and pulled it back in. He's just amazing. Just an amazing player.
Yeah.
But the best thing about this game was the Dolphins, those throwback uniforms. Why on earth anyone would think what they wear now is better than what they were wearing last night is beyond me. Those things are fantastic. I don't know why they ever changed them in the first place.
I like the uniforms. I like the end zones.
The end zones were awesome.
I liked a lot about that game.
Yeah.
From a visual standpoint, at the very least.
But, the Giants, 6-7. And, again, all 3 contenders in the NFC East all win this weekend, which is the last thing in the world I would have expected.
Yep. I mean, I think it would have been more likely if somebody said all the leaders in the NFC East were going to win or they were all going to lose.
I'm betting lose.
I would have picked they were all going to lose.
Absolutely.
But good win for the Giants to stay right in the thick of this dumpster fire that is the NFC East. Although, if the NFC East played the AFC South right now, who would win?
NFC East, I think, easy.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think even the Cowboys can knock off somebody.
Yeah.
Probably the Titans.
Of the 2, I think that the NFC East is definitely the better bunch.
So right now, the playoff standings are the Patriots clinched a playoff spot and the division with the win over the Texans. They're first in the AFC. Bengals and Broncos at 10-3 are the 2 and 3 seeds. Indy still leads the South. They're in the 4 seed. The wild cards are the Chiefs and Jets at 8-5. The Steelers, based on win percentage tiebreakers, sit on the outside, also 8-5. In the NFC, the Panthers clinch a bye in the first round. They're 13-0. Could very well be 16-0 at the end of this thing. Cardinals clinch a playoff spot. They're second in the division. They could clinch a bye and the division with a win this week. They could clinch the bye if Green Bay loses this week. The Packers play the Raiders in Oakland this weekend. Oh,
well, we already know who the contender is for my best-looking game of the week next week's going to be. Mm-hmm. Probably not even the contender. It's probably already going to win it.
Yeah, that'll be a solid one. Washington still leads the NFC East. They're in the 4th spot, and I think it's pretty safe to say that the Seahawks and Vikings are going to be the wild card winners right now.
Yeah.
Both at 8-5. The next closest is Tampa Bay at 6-7.
Yeah.
I don't think Tampa Bay is going to make up that ground.
No, and I don't think the Seahawks or the Vikings might slow down a little bit, but the Seahawks, they're not slowing down.
Moving on to the college football slate, and only one game on the schedule this week, the Army-Navy game, and entertaining Army-Navy game this year. Army put up a good fight. They were leading into the 3rd quarter, but Keenan Reynolds and the Navy midshipmen pull it out in the 4th quarter for a 21-17 win. Navy beats Army for the 14th consecutive season. Another tough one if you're the Army. But Navy, they've got this thing down pat, it looks like.
Well, we talked about it a little bit before we started recording tonight. I watched a documentary, I think it was last year, that I want to say Showtime put together on 2 freshman football players as they were coming into Army and Navy, respectively. And I don't think that people, as important as this game seems to us on the outside, it is just such a big deal to these guys. And for Army to drop their 14th in a row, I don't know how that's going over at West Point right now. But Army was their own worst enemy in this one. They had so many fumbles that if they didn't cough up the ball like that, maybe they win this time. But, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Do you think Navy, do you think that Keenan Reynolds should have been invited to the Heisman thing?
I know Dan Patrick, really good year.
Dan Patrick was going on about not having a cutoff and just saying, look, we're going to bring 5 or 6 guys. I mean, really, how many does it matter how many people show up? I don't think it does.
No, I think they decided based on, the vote percentages.
Yeah, there's a cutoff point.
But, does it matter? Because I always think things like that, like the NHL does that too, where they have nominees for the award when you already know who won the award. They're not nominees. These are the top 3, and you can kind of pick from the top 3 who already won. Yeah. Right. So I don't think too hard about it. It's it'd be a nice honor, sure enough, but
I just thought it was cool
I don't
because
think he won or anything.
No, but it was. I guess he was going to show up in a helicopter and walk in from that, which would have been really kind of kick-ass to see. But other than that, no, he wasn't going to win. You're right.
Speaking of the Heisman, your Heisman Trophy winner, as predicted, unfortunately, Derrick Henry of Alabama beats out Christian McCaffrey and Deshaun Watson of Clemson. Again, I thought McCaffrey had the best football season this year. I thought he was probably more important to Stanford than – well, no, I guess Henry is probably more important to Alabama in the long run. But not unsurprising to see the Alabama running back win the Heisman.
Right. He was the guy going in we all thought was the leader. We talked about the West Coast bias or the East Coast bias. We talked about all that. And it turned out pretty much exactly like we thought it would. And good for him. Now let's see what he does in the NFL.
Yeah, right. Mark Ingram's had a middling career.
Yeah.
Eddie Lacy's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Trent Richardson.
Not so much.
No, not really. Who came in last year? What was his name?
Heisman Trophy winner from last year?
It wasn't the Heisman Trophy winner.
Oh, from Alabama.
The Alabama running back from last year.
TJ Yeldon.
Yes.
At Jacksonville.
Right, Jacksonville.
He's had a pretty good season. He's doing all right.
Yeah. So hard to judge, but another Alabama running back, another Heisman Trophy, another top NFL pick. Good luck to you. But as we sit here on Tuesday, December 15th, the bowl season starts up on Saturday, December 19th. Greg, we have 5 bowls on Saturday?
Really? Yeah, I guess we do, don't we?
Saturday. Yep.
All right.
So do you want to go through just the bowls that would be in this upcoming week?
Yes, let's just do them week by week. That way we save ourselves more college football as we go along here.
All right. So we'll do the bowls from Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday before we go into next week. So on Saturday,
stop at Monday because we're going to record on Tuesday, so we won't know anything about them yet. Yeah. True. Let's do Monday to Monday. Okay.
All right. Saturday, December 19th, you have at the early morning game, or the earliest game. It's a morning game for me, not for you. The Gildan, New Mexico Bowl. The 6-6 Arizona Wildcats take on the 7-5 New Mexico Lobos in New Mexico's home stadium. Arizona's a 10-point favorite on the road against New Mexico.
I think that's probably safe to say they're probably going to cover that. Love to see the Lobos win this one, but I think Arizona's just a better team.
Arizona's probably a better team, but go Lobos.
Go Lobos, yeah.
Go Lobos. Then we move on to the Royal Purple Las Vegas Bowl. And in the City of Sin, we get 2 teams from a dry state playing each other. BYU will take on Utah. Both teams 9-3. Utah 22 in the country. Played at Sam Boyd Stadium in Vegas. The Utes are a 2.5-point favorite over the Cougs. If the Cougars still had their starting quarterbacks from the year, maybe it'd be interesting. But
how do you think Las Vegas likes having all these Mormons come in for a bowl game?
That's what I was gonna say. Two schools with a lot of Mormon fan base in Las Vegas for the weekend.
Yeah, they're close enough to go to the game, but Vegas is going. They're going to show up and drink Coke and not go to casinos. Big deal. No, they didn't even drink Coke. What am I talking about? Yeah, okay.
Right. It's tea.
But it's nice to see this rivalry come back. I think that's kind of cool because I don't think they play they had a big rivalry where they used to play every year, and I don't think they have for the past couple, so it's kind of nice to see that.
I'd love to see these two teams go color on color in this game.
Oh, it'd be great.
Red versus blue?
It'd be great, yeah.
Why not, right?
Yeah, and I like both these teams too, but if I had to pick one I liked better, I'm going to probably go BYU a little bit over Utah.
I think that's going to be the best bowl game of the day. Two 9-win teams going at it. That'll be fun.
Definitely.
Move on to the Raycom Media Camellia Bowl in the Crampton Bowl, Montgomery, Alabama. The Ohio Bobcats, 8-4, take on the Appalachian State Mountaineers, 10-2. Appalachian State's a 7.5-point favorite over the Bobcats. Greg, what do you think?
This is only their second year in Division I, isn't it? Appalachian State, yeah. The Bobcats, I don't know. I haven't seen them play this year, but they were really good at the FCS level. So, I don't know. I think I got to pick the Bobcats just because they're bigger. But man, Appalachian State, they did beat Michigan a few years back. So who knows?
Yeah, they did that one time. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one MAC team that actually gets to go somewhere halfway interesting, Montgomery, Alabama, instead of Detroit.
Later on, the Auto Nation Cure Bowl, one of I think 4 bowl games being played at the Citrus Bowl this season in Orlando. The 5-7 San Jose State Spartans, 5-7, they made the cut. Take on the Georgia State. I actually don't know what their mascot is.
Georgia State.
State. It's their Panthers. Georgia State Panthers.
It's just Panthers because one of these teams, the directional schools, has a really weird nickname, but I guess it's not them.
Georgia State Panthers, 6-6, their first ever bowl game in program history. That'll be a fun one for Georgia State, but probably not an interesting game overall, and probably better that it's on the CBS Sports Network, a network that I don't know where that is.
It's channel 220 or 219, I think, on DirecTV, I think.
Okay.
221 maybe. Here's my question. Does this game break 10,000 in attendance or not?
Depends on how many people Georgia State brings.
Okay. I'm going to say
I don't think San Jose State's going to get a whole lot.
No.
But for their first ever bowl game, if you can get enough people from Georgia State to show up, then maybe.
Where is Georgia State? What part of Georgia is it in? If it's down by Valdosta or somewhere, there's a good chance.
No, I think they play. I thought they play their games in the Georgia Dome.
Oh, maybe they do. I
thought they did.
But I'm going to say that the attendance, unless they're just giving away free tickets left and right in Orlando, and then I'm not even so sure. I'm going to say this one stays south of 10,000 in attendance.
The late game, the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl at the Superdome in New Orleans. Arkansas State, the Red Wolves.
That's the one I was thinking of, the Red Wolves, yeah.
The Red Wolves take on Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, 8-4. Louisiana Tech's a 2-point favorite in this one.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I think Louisiana Tech has decent uniforms, if I remember right. Or I might be thinking of the Raging Cajuns. I'm not sure.
Alma mater of Terry Bradshaw, right?
I think so.
I believe so.
Yeah. All right. To go back to the quarterback thing we talked about earlier, Louisiana Tech's got a quarterback that won 4 Super Bowls. Alabama, 2. I'll take that back, 2. Stabler and Namath both won a Super Bowl.
Right.
All right.
I mean, even BYU had Steve Young. So,
yeah.
Speaking of quarterbacks from...
And Jim McMahon, don't forget.
Oh, Jim McMahon, yeah, right.
Who had the greatest quote ever when they said, what was your favorite memory of BYU? He said, leaving. I always said that was hysterical.
Oh, man. On Monday, December 21st, the Miami Beach Bowl played at beautiful Marlins Park in Miami, Florida.
You want to make this one really interesting? Actually play it on the beach.
Yeah, right?
Don't you think? Yeah.
Western Kentucky, 11-2, takes on the South Florida Bulls, 8-4. Western Kentucky's the Hilltoppers?
Yes.
They're a 2.5-point favorite over South Florida in this game.
Honestly, all joking aside, this should be a pretty good football game. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched, and it should be pretty fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And I would probably go with – I'm going to take the Bulls over the Hilltoppers in this one. So there you go.
And then I guess we won't talk about Tuesday, but your Toledo Rockets play on Tuesday, Greg.
Against Temple. Boy, they're going to get their butts handed to them in that
Boca
one.
Raton Bowl.
Yeah, we'll get to that one next week.
Yes.
All right.
Well, by the time we record, I think the first game will probably be done.
Oh, which one is that?
That's the famous Idaho Potato Bowl.
Well, let's do that one too.
In Albertson Stadium in Boise. That's the blue turf game, of course. Another team from Ohio, Greg, the Akron Zips.
Look at the MAC going to Boca Raton and Birmingham and Boise.
Yeah.
All
They'll
right.
be taking on the 6-6 Utah State
Aggies.
Yeah. Utah State's a 7-point favorite over the Zips.
Yeah, I think the Aggies should have no trouble with the Zips. The Zips just, I mean, they're okay, but, you're talking like a mid-level MAC team. And is Utah State a Mountain West school? I think.
Yes.
I think the Mountain West is a little bit better than the MAC top to bottom, so I'm going to take the Aggies in this one on the blue turf. Yeah.
That'll be an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then next week I'll get to bore people to death with my love of my Toledo Rockets as they take on the Temple Owls in the Marmot Boca Raton Bowl. It doesn't pay to win the MAC these days because if you win, you have to go to Detroit. If you come in second or third, you get to actually go somewhere halfway interesting.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You'd rather lose.
Yeah, I mean, give me the choice between Boca Raton, Florida, and Detroit. I'm going. It's like, you know what? We'll drop a couple games and go to Boca Raton.
Yeah.
They need to fix that right away.
Temple is a 1.5-point favorite in that game.
Oh, I think they'll have an easier time than that with the Rockets. Temple played a tough schedule this year.
Yeah, but still, that's what I mean. Like Temple's only 1.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I think it should be more than that.
Yeah. Then we get into some more of the interesting bowls as a bowl schedule that stretches from December 19th
to June 1st
to January 11th for the national championship game. Capital One Bowl Week
begins the 19th and ends the middle of January.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't. It's whatever. That's just how things work.
Yep.
But I think that's going to do it for college. I guess the only other thing that we didn't touch on, some vacancies have been filled already. Mark Richt fired from Georgia, goes walking right down into University of Miami. He'll be the head football coach for the Hurricanes.
That's a good move for them, I think.
Yeah, I think Mark Richt will probably have a little bit more success there than he could have at Georgia.
Right.
It'll be a nice move. There were a couple other ones, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. That's the only big name one that I could think of.
Yeah, that's a good move for. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the other one, Bronco Mendenhall, moving from BYU to Virginia after BYU's bowl game this weekend.
Okay. And what was the other one?
What's his face? Will Muschamp, who, of course, was the coach at Florida last year, moved on to be the defensive coordinator at Auburn this year, going to be the new head coach at South Carolina.
Hey, that might not be a bad move for him. So, back in the SEC.
Stays in the SEC. Things didn't work out as well at Florida as he's probably liked them to, obviously, but see how he can take over for the old ball coach.
Yeah. We had a tough act to follow at Florida, too. I mean, you got to, there's an old saying, you always want to be the replacement's replacement, and I think that's where Bill Muschamp got in a little trouble. He was the guy that came in right after Urban Meyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
The replacement's the guy you always want to be.
Okay.
All right.
But that'll do it for college, and I think that'll do it for our football talk this week. Follow us on all of our platforms, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. Pray that we no longer have any more technical difficulties.
I think we got it figured out.
Things have been a little rough on our end.
Tell me about it. Well, it would be fine, except that one of my computers is possessed. So
it happens.
Yeah,
it happens. Follow us on our stuff. Look out for the other shows coming this week. Basically, a sports show holiday special.
Yeah.
This week. I don't know what we're going to do to make it special, but
they're all special.
Will be.
They're all
it
special.
Will be everyone's a special snowflake.
Right.
For Greg, I'm Zach. This is basically a football show. Enjoy the football.